The Simpsons, created by cartoonist Matt Groening, is a show so ubiquitous that it almost feels unnecessary to describe it. It started airing in 1989 and it's been going strong ever since. In 1993, David X. Cohen joined the writers' room where he's credited with writing 13 episodes across seasons 6 to 10 of the show, after which he left to serve as showrunner on a new show developed by him and Groening, which premiered on March 28, 1999. You've heard of Futurama. If you clicked on this video, you've probably watched Futurama, though not necessarily in its entirety. Futurama is, uncharacteristically, for the things I've been talking about recently on here, a very well-known show. It's also a show that I'm very into. The core of Futurama's appeal to me is that it is a delightfully smart show that also knows how to be very, very dumb. The writers make jokes on the commentary tracks about how many MAs and PhDs they had in the writers' room, and like, they used those degrees, mostly in small ways, but they used them.
Jeff Westbrook, who wrote this, has a PhD in computer scientist, and he's sitting here before us. So, he designed the second alien language. The first one's just a simple replacement, as you all know. A is a symbol, B is a symbol. The second one, what type of code is that?
Why, that is a modular addition code where the next letter is given by the summation of all the previous letters plus the current letter.
Mod something or other.
Mod 26, of course.
There you go.
Of course.
When we started talking about this idea, the mind switcher that can't switch back, it at first just seemed like kind of an interesting plot device. We didn't realize it would lead to such an interesting mathematical conundrum that required proving. It turned out to not be that obvious. Can you get back, or how do you get back, or do you need extra people to get back? So, as we'll see at the end, Ken Keeler actually proved mathematically that if you have 2 extra people who've never switched, you can always get everyone back to their own body, no matter how many people and no matter how confused up they are.
But it's a theorem that's never been... He created it and proved it, right?
He did, and he, by the way, he is very insistent that he himself would not call it a theorem. He feels it is not important enough to merit that distinction. He just wants to call it a proof.
And the show pairs that with just the dumbest stuff.
Wow, it's ricketier than it looks. You better try to jump it, Bender.
Okay, let me back up for a running start.
And yeah, obviously those are the 2 extremes of what Futurama can be, and there's plenty of moments that are, just standard TV funny or witty and clever, but not that far out of the norm for half-hour network television. But I do think that Futurama as a show is very good at capturing what Benz Acker and Blacker, co-creators of the Thrilling Adventure Hour, call the beautiful dumb. This isn't an essay about Futurama generally, but if it were, I could speak to a lot of the things that I think make Futurama special. From its clear love of the genre that it inhabits, to the characters, to the way that it weaves heartfelt moments into an otherwise silly story to create genuine emotional impact. On a more personal level, I love the show because it rewards rewatches, and it rewards attention paid by the viewer. Also, the main cast is only 8 voice actors who are responsible for the vast majority of the characters, which is fun for me, a person who likes practicing identifying voice actors without looking it up. I got into Futurama because my family had the first 2 seasons on DVD when I was a kid, and that slowly snowballed into generally having very strongly held opinions on the show, which is why I'm here today to say definitively that Futurama has 7 seasons. Part 1, Futurama. Now, that's an interesting statement to make, for a couple reasons, particularly the show's interesting broadcast history, especially on Fox. In production order, Futurama's run on Fox covers the first 4 seasons of the show. However, when broadcast, the show was aired inconsistently and out of order, and was grouped by the network into 5 broadcast seasons. So that's complication 1. Complication 2 is the movies. There are 4 Futurama movies, all of which were initially released on DVD. The movies are currently consistently treated as their own season. but that only started happening after the show was picked up for more episodes by Comedy Central, after which the movies were cut up into 4 episodes each to air as the show's 5th season. Complication 3 is that the final 2 seasons of the show, following the movies, were each broadcast in 2 parts, and so are either treated as 2 or 4 seasons, depending on where you watch them. Production order of the episodes splits Futurama into 7 seasons. That's how the cast and crew talk about it in commentaries, that's how the production codes are numbered, and that's what's widely recognized by fans as the best way to watch it. If you watch Futurama on DVD, there are 8 volumes plus the movies, which aren't given their own volume but are just treated as 4 movies in the middle of the show's run. How the volumes are labeled in terms of season number depends on where in the world you got your DVDs from, but most people who care enough to have the DVDs treat the show as 7 seasons. If you watch Futurama as it aired, there are between 7 and 10 seasons, depending on if you encountered the movies as their own season or just as movies, and on if you consider the final 52 episodes to be 2 seasons or 4. Based on my recollections of watching the show on Netflix when it was still on there in my part of the world, it followed production order, but according to this Reddit post, they did that originally before switching to broadcast order in 2013, so if you were watching it on there, the number of seasons varied depending on when you watched it. Finally, if you watch the show now on Disney Plus in Canada or Hulu if you're in the States, there are 10 seasons of Futurama. 5 for the Fox run, with the movies making up season 6, and production seasons 6 and 7 being split into seasons 7 to 10 of the show, with 13 episodes each. Here's the chart I use to keep track of all this, and to make sure that I'm watching the episodes in the right order when I watch them on a streaming service. To reiterate, the show's production order is pretty much universally recognized by fans as the correct order. Fox screwed the show over by airing it the way it did, and while seasons 6 and 7 were split up, that doesn't make them 2 distinct seasons. Futurama has 7 seasons. Except the complicated broadcast history of the show is not the only reason that's an odd statement. It's not even the main reason that's an odd statement. Passionate as I am about defending it, I'm in the majority when it comes to following production order. The Infosphere agrees with me. The Futurama subreddit agrees with me. Wikipedia agrees with me. It's an odd statement to make because they made more Futurama. In February of 2022, it was announced that Hulu would be reviving Futurama, and Season 8 premiered on July 24th, 2023. Season 9 followed the next year, and at time of recording, Hulu has renewed the show for another 2 seasons. Also, at time of recording, I have seen nothing of the show's Hulu run because of completionism. Part 2. Completionism. Futurama is a weird show to be completionist about. Aside from all the stuff we just covered, it's not really something that has a particularly strict continuity or overarching story. Yes, time passes. Whenever anyone happens to mention a year, it consistently goes up. Things change in the lives of the characters and in the world generally, but on the whole, you can more or less pick any episode and be fine. As much as I do think production order is superior, the real problem with Fox airing the show the way they did wasn't that they got the order wrong, it was that the show was aired inconsistently and in a terrible time slot. If you watch the episodes in the order they're in on Disney Plus, you won't get confused, the show won't suddenly be a worse experience. Except for the Cryonic Woman, that's just much better as a season finale, and arguably Leela's Homeworld and Less Than Hero, which are only 2 episodes apart in production order, but as broadcast by Fox were 13 episodes apart and in separate seasons. I just think it's stronger to show Leela trying to connect with her parents much more shortly after learning about them than a season later. The point being that Futurama, with a couple exceptions, does not require knowledge of the lore or previous episodes to enjoy. There's some Easter eggs and foreshadowing for people who are invested in the larger plot, but it's by no means necessary, and on the level of smaller stuff, they play kind of fast and loose with continuity. More than just that, Futurama is a weird show for me to be completionist about. I already mentioned that my family had the first 2 seasons on DVD, but what I didn't mention was that for a while that was all the Futurama I had access to. I knew more existed, I even saw some of it through various means, but nothing ever drove me to seek it out or, ask my parents to seek it out for me. It wasn't until the show was added to Canadian Netflix that I could watch the later episodes whenever I wanted. And even when I had on-demand access to the show, I didn't watch it in order. I jumped around, I rewatched my favorites, I didn't make a point of seeking out the ones I hadn't seen, although I did eventually get around to all of them. When Canadian Netflix added the Comedy Central seasons, I didn't watch those in order either. I skipped around, just like I had with the rest of the show. I'm pretty sure the first time I watched the show all the way through, start to finish, without skipping around, was in 2017, during my first year of university. And if that Reddit post is correct, then I was watching in broadcast order, not production order. For someone who is currently very passionate about the correct order of Futurama episodes, I spent the majority of my history with the show not caring about that. I didn't start from a place of completionism with Futurama. I grew into it as I spent more time learning things about the show, watching DVD commentary tracks, finding out which voice actor played each tiny background role, and generally caring about it more than is strictly necessary. So, okay, fine. I'm completionist about Futurama, even though it's weird. Why on earth would that mean that I haven't watched part of the show? Isn't the whole point of completionism to be, complete? When the Hulu seasons were announced, there were a couple of reasons I gave for not wanting to watch them. I was tired of reboots for the sake of reboots and remakes for the sake of remakes. The show had already managed to have pretty much the perfect ending, made all the more impressive by having 3 previous episodes designed to serve as potential endings. And some of that is true. I am exhausted by endless reboots, but come on. Futurama was revived multiple times before this. It's not like it's new for this show. And Futurama's setting and premise have a high degree of elasticity, and it's fairly episodic. If anything is evergreen content, Futurama is. I do stand by my belief that Meanwhile is the perfect ending. I cried the first time I watched it, and any ending that turns a story into a closed loop makes me incredibly happy. It's really hard to end any show, let alone one that's already ended 3 times, and it's a testament to Ken Keeler and the rest of the Futurama team that Meanwhile manages to provide a satisfactory conclusion. I want Meanwhile to be the last episode of Futurama. I don't need to watch more of it. But none of that is the real reason that I don't want to watch the Hulu seasons. Well, maybe that's part of the reason, but it's not the whole reason, and it's definitely not the primary reason. I don't think completionism is actually about reading, watching, listening to the entirety of a thing. If it was, I'd be a lot more excited about new installments, sequel series, and expansions of the world for stuff that I'm into. I think more than experiencing all of a story, for me, completionism is about knowing everything about a story.
I am Melvar, seer of the tapes, knower of the episodes. Tremble before my encyclopedic knowledge of Star Trek.
Even if I don't cultivate an encyclopedic knowledge of a piece of media I encounter, consuming all of it is the first step.
Over and over I watch them, especially the 5 with the energy beams.
And for the things that I like, that I rewatch and reread and make charts for and write wiki pages about, I need the focus of all of that energy to be a finite, clearly defined body of work. Like a lot of nerds, I place some value on being correct, on knowing all of the trivia, and to some extent being able to prove to other people that I like the thing through how much I know about it.
I meant me, Melvar's the ultimate fan!
Oh, I was confused because the scoreboard says something different.
Yeah, trivia contest over!
That's not a good mindset, but it's there.
I thank you, Fry. You know, you and I are of a kind. In a different reality, I could have called you friend.
Episode 10, Balance of Terror.
More like episode 9, loser! In your face, victory is mine!
Even taking away the competitive nerd clout angle, I am driven to know all the things. I don't know if that's necessarily possible, because narrative is not just a factual experience but an emotional one, but I can exhaust the factual side. I can rewatch and reread things as much as I want, I can make my charts, and as long as the thing has an ending, as long as I know that it's finished, complete, I can do so, safe from the knowledge that nothing new will come along and throw off my carefully cultivated data. New additions to canon are a threat, because I can never know everything about a new episode the same way I can about an episode that I've been watching for, in the case of Futurama, roughly 10 to 18 years, depending on the season. And trying to keep abreast with knowing everything while there's actively new stuff coming out is an entirely different kind of energy to invest into something than continuing to re-examine and study something I'm already familiar with. And it means I can never watch everything evenly and know that I've delved into the new stuff with the same rigor, and so it's better to just pretend it doesn't exist, or that it doesn't count, and not acknowledge it, because it's better to know absolutely nothing about it than it is to not know everything and know that I'll never know everything. And what the fuck am I talking about? That's nonsense, right? Like, do whatever makes you happy. I'm not trying to tell you there's a right way to like stuff, but respectfully, to myself, what the fuck am I talking about? My completionism, my need to have my knowledge of a work be all-encompassing, is so ingrained that I would rather disengage from continuations of stories I love, made by writers I respect, than give those continuations a chance. My completionism runs so fucking deep that when I had the idea for this video and realized that the only satisfying conclusion would be to watch the Hulu seasons, I actually had the thought, well, I should wait until it ends before I make this, so that I can be sure I've watched everything. Obviously, you're watching this video, and at time of release, the show has yet to conclude or be cancelled again, so I guess it's time to watch some Futurama. Part 3. The Future.
Okay, it's Tuesday, June 10th. I'm genuinely very nervous and kind of, scared to do this, but I'm gonna watch Season 8 of Futurama.
Well, they slightly changed the animation in the theme song, so I don't like that. I have now watched the 20 episodes that currently comprise the show's Hulu run. They were fine. Otherwise, and all the way down, were masterpieces. Related to items you viewed, the Planet Espresso and Cuteness Overload all stood out to me in particular as episodes that would have been right at home alongside the show's earlier run, and the Futurama Mystery Library was a great addition to the show's other 3-part anthology episodes. And as a continuity fan, I quite enjoyed Children of a Lesser Bog. Of the rest, there were only a few that I was disappointed in. I Know What You Did Next Xmas felt a little bit lackluster, and I enjoyed Attack of the Clothes, but the pacing felt off. I liked the actual segments in The Prince and the Product, but the framing device was actively frustrating to me. And then Quid's Game just kind of felt hollow when compared with other episodes that tie into some part of Fry's past, and the emotional through line for Fry was incredibly weak. All the others, though, were perfectly solid episodes of Futurama, and even when I didn't love them, there wasn't anything about them that felt outside of what I would expect from the show. Emotionally, it was a bit of a strange experience. I spent the entire first 2 episodes, braced against something. I don't even know what. I was just tense the whole time. I relaxed a little bit over the course of episodes 3 and 4, but it wasn't until episode 5 that I really settled into watching it. The whole time, though, even after settling in, I felt like I was a lot more alert for any changes or differences, and as a result, I kept wondering if I was judging the new stuff too harshly. Attack of the Clothes is a solid episode. The pacing's a little bit weird, but I still liked it. Definitely more than 2D Blacktop, which is my least favorite of the episodes during the Comedy Central run. And I think that if I rewatched I Know What You Did Next Xmas, I might like it better than 2D Blacktop too, but I still felt the need to point to both of them as episodes that weren't as good. Of course, the real question is, now what? Am I going to start treating the new episodes the way I treat the old ones? Am I going to keep up with the new seasons when they're released? Am I going to rewatch these, pore over them, add them to my chart? And if I do, is that actually doing anything to solve the kind of all or nothing mindset that I'm trying to examine here? Honestly, I don't know. The new seasons felt a little bit more inconsistent in quality than some of the older ones, but honestly, they're probably about on par with my personal opinions on the Comedy Central seasons, so I'll likely watch the new episodes when they drop, or at least get around to them at some point. I don't currently feel any impulse to rewatch and really delve into the new stuff the way I have with the old stuff, so I probably won't be doing that anytime soon. But I also don't think I'll be avoiding them like the plague the way I have been. And I actually have a pretty good case in point now for the way that this like stubborn resistance to any new additions to stuff I like and stuff I know a lot about isn't serving me. Because I liked the episodes on the whole. Otherwise almost made me cry. I did not want a follow-up to Meanwhile, and on some level I still feel like it didn't need one, but if it's going to have a follow-up, Otherwise is doing a damn good job at filling that role. And I denied myself the experience I had watching it just because of the weird petty rules I made up in my head. I am still a little wary of the new episodes of Futurama, and I know why. The show, completionism aside, is a source of comfort for me. It's familiar, it's enjoyable, it's smart and funny and heartfelt, and as a wise man once said, even when I didn't have any friends, it made me feel like maybe I did. New additions to stuff you love can be hard. New things generally can be hard, but the familiar isn't the only place to find joy, and what you love about it doesn't go away just because something new has joined it. And sometimes, you'll love the new stuff too. After all, you never know what's going to happen in the future.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight!
We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows!